guys, Mayflom here, and today I'm going to make a unicorn card featuring some Neat and Tangled stamps and also Neat and Tangled stencil. So I've got just some cardstock here, and I've got one of their stencils that I think would look really cool, all kind of rainbowy, but I want to add a little texture. So I'm going to add some light and fluffy modeling paste. I'm using this one. I like this one for card making. Ranger texture paste is also great. What I like about it is it's exactly what it says, light and fluffy, which means you can get a nice texture and it will add very little weight. It won't actually add a lot of bulk or a lot of weight to your card. So it makes it really ideal for card making, also for scrapbooking. And I'm just smearing this on here really nice and thin. And I might need a little bit more. To get it nice and even, I go over it once, just kind of move it around and then come back over and really scrape it so that the stencil shows through. This is going to do a couple things. Number one, it's going to help clean my stencil because it's going to scrape any excess off the stencil. But number two, by scraping it really well and a couple times even, it's going to make sure that it's a really even coverage, that it's exactly the depth of the stencil is the depth of the paste. Now, if you get a couple spots that are being stubborn, I have a couple here that I can see where the paste is not filling in. You can absolutely just go in there and really scrape them over them. Make sure it takes, and then re-scrape. That's not a problem. Just take your time with it. This is your crafty fun time. I'm really taking a long time here and making sure I have it extra good because of how I want to make this card. So if you have extra, you can scrape it back into the container. You'll want to seal that back up. This dries pretty quick, and you can also speed it up if you want with the help of a heat tool, or you can just let it air dry. The one thing you do want to do is remove the stencil right away and get it rinsed off so that the paste doesn't dry to it. Now, at this point, if you wanted to add color, and I'm thinking about some blue mist. I have some cobalt blue mist here. So I am going to spray a little spray of that. And then I'm thinking about maybe a green. I'm just kind of poking around up here, up top of my, or actually maybe a light blue. So I have a Distress spray stain in a lighter blue. Yeah, I like the idea of lighter blue. You don't want to use a ton of color because you don't want to make it a really sopping wet mess. If you want to remove some color, you can grab a paper towel, dab it like so. That'll also add a design if your paper towel is textured, as you can see there. If I want to add, I don't know, let's try some green maybe. I just want to try a couple different colors, and I can continue to blot. I can try as many colors as I want. Now, why would I do this before removing? If you do it before removing, it's going to stick to the pattern. So I will still get my super crisp pattern, all nice and white, all the areas that don't have the stenciling, but the color will be all over the other areas. I really like this. I think that's beautiful. So I'm going to set that aside and let it set while I clean my stencil and get ready to stamp my main image. Now you can use the color mediums of your choice. What I've got here is on watercolor paper. I used archival ink because I want to be able to use water mediums with this. So that means that I want an ink that won't react. So that'd be watercolor. So I just stamped it, and then I used the coordinating dies for this stamp set and cut out. I don't think I'm actually going to use these, but here's my deal. And I've got a second unicorn floating around here too. If I'm already getting out the Sizzix and cutting die cuts and stuff, I always cut extra because I'd rather just go ahead and have a few extra and save myself time the next time versus not. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make an ombre maned unicorn. So to do that, I'm using clean color pens. Absolutely not necessary. You could use any type of color medium you like, but I'm going to use clean color pens, and just make sure if you get too much water on there, just do your best to drag it down like so. If it's just way too much water, like I think I've got going on, then you're just going to need to, you don't need to actually touch the paper. If you just get a paper towel close enough to touch the water. Do you see how the water just went right up the paper towel? So don't worry about it if you get too much water. It is fixable. There's a lot more water on this water brush than I thought. And if you do not have a water brush, well then what you can use instead of a water brush, you can use a paintbrush dipped in water. Easy peasy. Okay, so I am going to color this a bit. And each one, what I'm going to do is put a bit of color at the top like so. One color, two color, and you could use anything. You could use distress inks, you could use markers, you could use things that are water soluble like this, which means they're water soluble, water reactive. It means they're going to react. When you get that water going on there, they're going to react. They're going to blend and bleed and all the rest of it. It's up to you if you do or do not want that to happen. If you don't want that to happen, well then use a marker or something that isn't going to react. And again, I said you could use lots of different mediums. I've done lots of videos, and you can search my YouTube too on all this card making fun. But I'm just going to do the hair, okay? And then I'm going to let the hair dry. And when the hair dries, and you're going to notice some blending and bleeding from one to the next, and that's okay. We don't have a problem with that because we're letting it all be blendy fun. Okay, all I'm really doing is trying to make sure it contains to the little unicorn's mane. Let's really see how it's all, yeah, there it goes. And then I'll need a little bit up here at the top. And if it's not perfect, please do not be stressing out if it is not perfect. Then we're going to let this dry. Totally, totally dry. You can speed it along a bit with the heat tool. But you see how it's all like kind of dreamy because I let the water get in there. Now, if you did not want the colors to blend from one strand of hair to the next, you have a couple choices. Number one, let it dry fully before you add each of those little strips. If I had let it dry fully, we'd have a different reaction right now. So that's one option. Option number two, woo! Be careful when you're using the heat tool, you don't blow away your unicorn. So option number two is if I had used embossing ink, it would have created a bit of a raised area at the edges and it would have decreased the blending and bleeding. Okay, so that's another option for you. And option number three is just do it, go about it a totally different way. Meaning, like I had said before, you could use Copic markers, you could use not markers that won't blend, you could use watercolors, you could use inks, you could put inks down a palette. There's so many different things you could use. But what you're going to do is let this totally dry, and I'm going to repeat this on the tail. Let it totally dry, and then I'm going to take some crystal glaze. So I'm just going to put, after it's totally dry, put some crystal glaze over the hair. And what that'll do is seal it in so that then when I go to work on the body, guess what? When I go to work on the body, it will be sealed in. All of these colors will be totally sealed in. Now, if you get it done and you're going, well, gee whiz, the top, I wanted more of an ombre look. It's not blended enough. Come back in with color and try at the top again where you want it the most intense. Come back in with that color and add a little more. Now, this is still slightly damp, so it's going to get a little different effect than if it were fully dry. If you want to wait for it to fully dry, definitely do. But you can come back in like so and add a little more. That's fun. This is a lot of fun, you guys, and it can be really addictive to sit here and color and play with these fun, especially with a unicorn. That's such a fun image to play with. Okay, so let that dry, repeat on the tail. Once it's all dry, you can see in the light, you see that shine, that's the clear stuff. That's the crystal glaze. If you have glossy accents, whatever else, you could use that too. And then what I'm going to do, I don't quite have the color I want, so I'm going to use Distress Ink, Mermaid Lagoon, and we are working on a non-stick craft mat here, so just rub a little, and this works with most dye inks. Okay, pick it up, and then I'm going to color in my unicorn, and here's the fun part. I don't have to worry about the mane and tail or being precious about the lines. You know why? because they're coated with that clear glaze. So if I run over it, I'm not going to ruin anything. Everything will be just fine, and I absolutely love that because it means I can just color like so. Look at that. The only thing I have to worry about, or not really worry about, is the horn here. I just want to make sure that the horn, that I don't get stuff on it. And you can see that if I had any whoopsies where it went over onto the face, I'm going to be able to fix those pretty easily here. And I can also adjust how light or dark I want my unicorn friend to be. I just love this, you guys. And I accidentally colored in that little gap right there. Here's the thing, guys. It's a card. I'm going to make a card and send it off to a friend. I don't need it to be perfection. It's a handmade. I don't expect perfection from myself. So if I ever make a blunder like that where it's just minimal, I just don't even worry about it. And I did color and gloss the little heart too, so I don't have to worry about that either. Okay, last thing is some gold accent. And what I am going to do, if you hear some digging there, digging in and getting some gold watercolors. Love, love, love these. And I don't need a lot of water. What I'm actually going to do is I'll spritz a little bit of water onto the one that I want, which I think I want this one. Okay, and then I'm just going to squeeze my water brush over here, just make sure that we're clear. And then just use my finger to dry it off. And then I just run it along here and it'll pick up the gold. And if it's still wet, it's going to pull the gold up into the other areas. So you'll just want to be aware of that. I noticed on my first, I thought my legs were dry, but the first leg, it pulled a little bit of gold up. Again, if it's a small problem, a small whoopsie, we don't worry about it here. Not in my studio. We are all about having fun over here. And then the horn, just a little bit of gold. And I'm not worrying about the lines within the horn because as that dries, you'll be able to still see the lines. Now, I did notice that this little piece right here should really be green. So I'm just going to put a little bit of green on there. And if I wanted to fix that toe, I could. I could go get that a little bit wet, do the old paper towel dab there, and then I could add a little more blue to the leg. You may never get it perfect if you have a whoopsie like that where it's watercolor ran. You may never actually get it just perfect, but you know what? You need to decide, do you care? Me? I don't care. I'm fine with that. So I'm just picking up a little more gold for these hooves. These golden hooves. I love them, love them, love them. This is such a fun stamp, you guys. I'm having so much fun. I could just sit here and color unicorns all day long. And I'm going to add a little more up to this ear. It just needs a little more color. There we go. Okay. Now it is assembly time. So I got my stamps back out and I'm stamping Have a Magical Day. Whoops, that flipped over. Have a Magical Day on a 1/2 inch high little piece of cardstock here for my card. So assembly time, what I like to do, especially a card like this where I have lots of pieces, some of them messy, and in fact I'm noticing there's a little bit of water right here I ought to get rid of. I like to work in parts. So for example, had I ruined my unicorn somehow, that's only one part. Had I stamped, I didn't like how that stamp came out and then it got some stuff on it, I flip it over. Working in parts like this means that if I mess one part up, I don't mess up the whole project. And that's true for scrapbooking, card making, whatever you're doing. So I've got, here it is, and I've trimmed it down. So this is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 folded. Okay, so we've got our card, we've got our card front. Now you could, I like to work, especially with these kinds of techniques and stuff. Like I said, I like to work in batches. You could have worked directly on a card front. I like to layer it up. I really do. It's personal preference though. And something like this, I could totally see this being a size down to 3x4 and being a really fantastic little pocket page bit. I think that would be really cute. I could see this being a lot of different projects I could see doing a whole series of unicorns and making a canvas. There's so much fun stuff you could do. I'm thinking that I like the idea of this being here, and I want my unicorn front and center like so. So now I'm just playing around in my mind here where I want all the pieces. And I like to get that idea of where do I want all the pieces before I actually glue things down. I find it it's much easier to make changes if glue is not yet involved. So for this, figure out exactly where I like this, which I think is about so. Okay, and then just take some scissors and trim it off. Love how this is turning out. I think this is going to be so much fun. It's just a little hello card. And then I'm going to put some foam adhesive on my unicorn. And I'm going to do that because I feel like if my unicorn here is popped up just a little bit, it'll really help it stand out from the rest. I think it'll help it really be the centerpiece, take center stage. Now I only have tiny little glue foam adhesives at the moment, so that's what I'm working with. I'm really a big fan. If you watch my videos, if you've followed my blog, you know I'm a really big fan of, I use what I've got, and if all I've got is tiny ones, darn it, I'm going to use all those tiny ones up before I go buying more. And that's one great way to keep your stash under control, is use what you've got. Okay, so our unicorn friend here, I am going to place like so. Lovely, lovely. Now, this paste is really smooth. Everything is gluing down to it really nicely. If it wasn't a drop or two, woo, of liquid adhesive like so, would solve your problem. Although, like I said, this, it's working like a dream, so I'm not going to mess with it. Last thing to do, I want to add some clear sparkle. So, getting out, oh, perfect. Ha, look, I've got my unicorn sequin dish. This sequin dish, I call it my sequin dish, or one of, because what I tend to do is put some sequins in it, make my project, and then put them back in the bottle. So this is one of my new Lilac Lane. Actually, I'm not even sure that this one's on the shelves yet. That's so new, but it is, or shipping to stores, shipping to stores soon. So you can watch for it or ask your favorite shop about it if you're so inclined. These stamps are very much in stores and so pretty. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use the crystal glaze because I don't want any matte finish spots in a spot that feels sparkly. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple there. I've got one there. What I'm trying to envision here is just kind of a little line of sparkle. And then I'll take these are all clear, so they're going to be really, really subtle. They're not going to be super out there in your face. And that's the other reason why I didn't want to use matte finish adhesive, because since they are all clear, they're only barely going to show up. And if it's going to barely show up, I really want to make sure that there's no matte finish like dulling the sequin there. And put a heart. Oh, this is just so much fun. Put one of those. There we go. Okay, and I put, let's see, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I've got 8 down. If I wanted to add more, I certainly could. Or I could go a different route and add in something like glitter glue would work. I'm actually just looking around to see which glitter glues I've got. I was thinking, oh, perfect. Okay, so I've got glitter drops here in Aquatic Mist. That seems like a perfect color for a unicorn card. So I'm just going to put a couple little drops of that. If you don't have this, or you don't know, like, how am I going to make my splatter pattern, here's my suggestion to you. Take some mist and flick a little splatter pattern. If you really can't figure out or don't know, like, oh, I just can't, I just don't know, what order I should put this in or how I should do this, just try it with some actual mist and see where the mist goes and how it operates and, what you like, what you don't like, and go from there. I just wanted to add a little tiny bit of magical sparkle to my card, and didn't take much. loving how this turned out, and I hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial. Remember, you want to head on over to my blog to check out more pictures, more details, suggestions, etc. And continue. Please keep watching. So be sure you're subscribing, and if you've got any questions, comments, requests, anything at all, I always would love to hear from you. So please do let me know. I will see you next time. I'm wishing you a most magical day.